Today on the show, I'm tired, Daniel's coding, and AI is turning nights and weekends into power hours. Can Cline, the AI code wizard, truly replace junior developers and maybe even entire teams? Daniel's personal project experience says maybe. Next, we'll take a look at Nvidia. From their Jetson dev kits to 5,000 series GPUs, we are diving into the evolution of AI hardware. Will Nvidia's reign last, or is Apple quietly stacking its silicon for a comeback? Spoiler, it's complicated and probably expensive. Next, robo-taxis. They're under fire as GM has pulled the plug on Cruise. Is LiDAR technology doomed, or is Waymo the last hope for a self-driving revolution? Plus, we finally realized that Cruise and Waymo aren't the same company. Hashtag growth. Whether it's building websites, helping your mom with her car, or finally subscribing to this podcast, AI is infiltrating every corner of our lives. So buckle up. This week's AI journey is going to be a whirlwind of code, GPUs, and robot reckonings, because
they might be self-aware.
Hunter, I'm tired.
Tired? What else is new?
I'm not sick and tired of something. Tired of being tired. I'll tell you why I'm tired.
Okay.
Because nights and weekends are a great time to work on personal projects, which I haven't been doing for months until recently.
I just let the AI do all my personal projects now. I find it much more efficient.
Well, funny you should say that. My best friend is named Cline. Cline is not a person. Cline is a Visual Studio Code extension that
we've talked about Cline.
We did talk about Cline, and I want to talk more about Cline because I am not a full-stack developer. For those of you not in the know, a full-stack developer is someone who can kind of do it all. I want to make an entire website. Well, I can do the back end, the code that manages databases and whatever, and I can do the front end, the actual part someone looks at. I'm not that kind of person. I'm definitely not a front-end developer. I've heard of React and Vue and CSS. I know nothing about them. Not a thing. But you know who does? My best friend Cline does. And so I asked an AI to make a project for me. Now, if I did this with ChatGPT or even just Claude on like its website, Claude with its projects would be able to give me, here's a bunch of individual files. ChatGPT would say, here's, kind of the skeleton of what this would look like. But Cline hooked up to my code editor program called Visual Studio Code. In my case, there's a bunch of them, whatever. I like this one a lot. Everyone should use it. It's great. It said, okay, and just started making files, and it would like write a new one, and I would look at it and then hit approve. And for all the back-end stuff, I'm using Python for that. I understood what it was doing, and I'd look through it. That looks reasonable. Save for the front end.
It wrote the back end too?
It wrote the back end and the front end, a whole project. For all the front end stuff, sure, I guess, click. And then here's the commands you should run. Can I do them? Yeah, I guess. Click. It runs it. I see the site up and running on my computer. Absolutely astonishing. There's a database. There's a back end. There's the front end. Stuff's talking to each other. To do this on my own without any AI, ignoring the fact that I don't know any front end, let's pretend that I did for a second. A week to a month of work, probably. Not knowing any front end stuff, many months of work, because I'd have to learn all of that stuff in the first place. Instead, in about a day, like a work day of nights kind of strung together, I got a website running locally. Then I said, hey, let's put this onto the web. Where should I put it? I tried AWS by default because I have an AWS account, Amazon Web Services. And that didn't work out so great. Fine. So I said, okay, what else is there? And it asked if I wanted to try something called Railway.app.
Okay. Yeah,
and I said, never heard of it. All right. How would I do that? Bip, 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 bip. It did 90% of the remaining work there. And I'll say that 90% holds true for basically everything. I had to make changes. Some of them I got Cline to do by saying, this isn't working, direct your attention here, this is this file and this error and whatever, and then it would fix it. For the deployment side of things, the actual like DevOps, developer operations side of things, that is where I think technology is still falling a little flat. I've spent 90% of my time on this, not just watching code come into existence, but trying to get the darn thing out into the world. And the reason why I'm so tired is because with Cline's help and with a Google Chrome AI experimental plugin that's just like in Google Chrome, looking at the developer tools of errors that were like popping up, it said, hey, do you want me to just explain this? And I said, yes, I do want you to explain this error because I'm having trouble. Text, oh, there's the problem. Implement, done. And now I have, the entire thing isn't like up and live yet. But again, I am months ahead of where I would have otherwise been in a few days of work due to AI tools. Do I think we're replacing all developers yet? No. Do I think that this kind of spells the doom for someone who's a good programmer and doesn't necessarily want to hire an entire team of people somewhere? Yeah. Yes. Like I could have hired a group of people, probably offshored, and it would have been cheapish, depending on your definition of cheap. And it would have taken time, and there would have been a bunch of meetings and back and forths and so on. And I would have gotten something probably close to what I wanted. Whereas here, full control of like, I want this to come into existence, and all the API costs, about $10 total, maybe so far.
Yeah.
I'm astonished.
The people that pretend this technology isn't here yet, that it's not actually saving real developer time and, I guess by extension, cost. Tremendous cost in time and cost in money. Yeah. It is much faster and it is much cheaper.
I don't know if it's better, because I'm sure the code that's being kind of slammed together this was its first pass at it. Like, maybe it is not the best, the most resilient, the most security conscious, whatever, like code, but by God, it works, and really quickly.
Yes, the most talented engineer would probably give you a better solution.
Yeah.
However, I think you can also make the argument that through these advances, you can iterate on your solution more. So you can get to version 5 much faster, and your version 5 that you achieve in the same time of the expert level engineer achieving their version 1 is likely better if we look at it in its totality. The user experience, the functionality, the cost, etc. It probably is a superior solution. I had a similar experience this week. I was writing a bunch of tickets for an engineering team. You hear all the things that we need to build,
like and one of the train tickets, like to
no engineering.
What do you mean by
software
tickets?
Engineering. A ticket basically describes work or a new feature within a software application that needs to be implemented. And the feature I was looking at was a new front end. That, again, that's like a website feature that needed this chat interface, and there were a few different features it had to have. And it's a brand new project as well, so it's a new thing that we're standing up. And I wrote the ticket with a good amount of detail, and then I said, I wonder if I just copy this ticket and paste it into, I used a v0.dev, and out came fully polished code. I clicked the share button, I added a comment to the ticket, said, or maybe you just want to use this. And indeed, they did just use that, deployed it, and like the ticket was, closed in all of a minute and a half.
I did. Yesterday, there was it needed to be hurried in general. There was a thing, I'm a blocker for an entire other team of people. We need this as soon as possible. And I look at the work, I'm like, I can probably get it done in like a day or two. Wait a second. I can get it done right now. Hey, Cline, here's the problem. Here's the couple of files that I need you to sort of emulate the solution out of. Okay, done. And then it was done. I had something in 2 hours that would have taken me 2 days, with tests, with the change log written, with with everything. my biggest concern about this isn't the quality of the code. It isn't like a huge concern, I think, is the possible loss of like new jobs in the industry for junior employees. But for me personally, my biggest problem with this technology is that I'm definitely going to become too reliant on it very quickly. And then my skills are going to atrophy because, oh my God, I'm saving so much time.
Or you just become a more well-rounded engineer, right?
Nope.
No,
definitely not.
Okay.
It's not going to be that. Well, no, in fairness, I am now getting exposed to like
That's what I'm saying.
React code that I would have never seen otherwise.
It's a win-win.
I suppose so.
Microsoft.
So anyway, all of that to say, oh my goodness, what I want is that experience for the average person, which I think ChatGPT is the first step toward. But like they're not seeing, they're having AI shoved down their throats. A lot of people are already getting AI fatigue. The average consumer, from what I see, depending on which average consumer we're looking at, is either very bullish on AI or saying enough already. Why? How does this help me?
The average consumer still doesn't even know what AI is. I was listening to a conversation this week where a person very legitimately thought that AI just kind of meant the internet. Like when you talk about AI, and I could completely see how someone who's like not working in technology could think the word AI is sort of synonymous with the internet. Oh, just use AI. What does that mean? It means just use the internet to get something done. Just use AI to get it done. And right. I think that probably represents the masses more than, if you slice your example of people who are leveraging AI tools, a good percentage of them are starting to experience a degree of fatigue. Okay, I agree with that. But the masses, I still don't think they know what it is.
Yeah, and even those who are aware don't necessarily know how they can take good advantage of it. I have a friend who just got a new computer, and I immediately told her, oh, you've got enough RAM. Download LM Studio. Let's get you hooked up with a local large language model, and you can play around with it. To which she said, why? Like, I don't even know what I'd do with it. And I want that use case. I want Cline for other things. And we see this with, like, Microsoft is putting AI tools into, like, Microsoft Word and things along those lines, and the rest of the Office suite as well. We're seeing it with, it's incorporated into email. You can do AI search results at the top of Google, some of which are more humorous than others. And like people are getting exposed to it, but I really want to see that force multiplier for everybody, not just for developers. And I think we're starting to see more pieces of it, especially on like the Microsoft Word or drafting emails kind of perspective. But what about the product manager who uses Monday.com to write up all of their tickets for the engineering teams that they're associated with? What about a manager of a construction company? What about a line chef? I don't know. There's a lot of people where AI isn't starting to realize this shift in the world and how we live and interact with it. But I'm like, only very recently am I seeing, oh, it's not just some cool tool. This is literally like a multiplier for me. I can get so much more done because of AI. Has manifested for me extremely recently, and I want it for everybody else.
I had an experience along those lines in the last week. I was helping my mom with her car. She was having an issue with one of the doors, and there was this like weird thing on the door where these like three cylindrical things were popping out, and she's like, well, what is that? I was like, I don't know what it is. I was like, hold on, let me call someone. I can video conference them in, and let's ask them. And so I flip open ChatGPT, go to advanced voice mode, turn the video on, and I said, hey, are you there? And they're like, yeah, I'm here. What can I help you with? I said, can you see this thing? It's coming out of the door. We're trying to figure out what it does, and we don't know. And I was like showing it to my mom so she can like see the video feed going through. Yeah. And it's like, oh, that is likely used to send electricity to the door so that all of its functionality works, like power windows and sensors, etc. And I was like, oh, and here's this other weird like plate on the other side. What do you think about that? And they're like, oh, well, that confirms it. That's where the electricity is coming from, etc. I said, okay, great, thanks. That's helpful.
Oh, is it like a two pieces of metal touch and the electricity like just goes through when the door's closed or something?
Yes. And so I hang up the phone, and my mom's like, who is that? I was like, That was the AI. We were just talking to the AI. He had no idea. And she was like, do normal people know that that's possible?
No, I don't think so.
It's just a completely magical experience. And it was better than talking to a human because they were way smarter than an average human. They were available instantly and super informative and helpful in this instance.
Would you say that this is more people, a more percentage of the time for more use cases? The thing that I'm always harping on?
I think it could be.
Did we just bump up all three of those a little bit?
I think it could be. Microsoft, who makes that editor you were talking about, they have their own, I guess we'll call it a competitor to Cline called Copilot.
Yeah, which was basically first to market.
First to market.
Used.
And it's free now as of this last week. I don't know if you saw that. A little bit.
It's a little free. Everyone can use it, but you're right. It is, I think, like X number of completions per month or something is free.
Yeah.
Still, like AI available to anyone for free.
Yeah. And there's also been a bunch of stories that they are wildly ramping up the number. I think they're now the top purchaser of Nvidia GPUs, graphical processing units, video cards being the key resource into both building the models that can generate these insights or predictions, and to both train them and generate the responses. So apparently, just scaling it out wildly, and also it's their cloud that OpenAI often leverages because they have that deep partnership with Microsoft. Yeah,
all of these various cloud AI providers are extremely hungry for more and more and more compute. Surely there has to be a point at which, like, okay, we're good, but we certainly haven't hit it yet, and that Nvidia stock just kind of keeps going up.
Yeah, there still isn't an obvious competitor to Nvidia. Apple has announced that they are going to be building their own server chips, which makes sense, but they're not going to be selling them. It's just going to be for internal usage because they already have AI chips, which are in all of their basically every machine that you purchase from Apple has dedicated AI hardware, and they're going to start building servers, but they have strongly suggested they're not going to be selling them. It's just for their internal usage.
Okay. Yeah, in the meantime, Nvidia is going to continue to rule the roost. The other big competitor out there to them sort of in general, I guess, is AMD, and Intel has kind of re-entered that sort of game, but...
Does the PS5 use an AMD GPU? Do you know that?
Literally no idea.
All right, PS5.
Yeah, so AMD doesn't have... You mentioned this earlier. There's a software library called CUDA, which definitely stands for something. Boy, I sure do not know off the top of my head. And that's what a lot of, like, deep learning, which is to say machine learning, which is to say AI stuff is built on top of to be most efficient. A lot of other libraries that could use it can also use other stuff, but they're not necessarily as fast or efficient or whatever. So if you've got CUDA, it can run better, faster, harder, better, faster, stronger. And there isn't a good competitor to that. And until there is, it's Nvidia or nothing. Well, not nothing, but it's Nvidia or you're not going to be literally competitive.
The PS5 is using the AMD GPU, which is what I thought it was. And I think I've seen that in some other video game units. I don't know why they are... I mean, I'm sure it's a cost thing more than anything else, why they're going with AMD over NVIDIA. I'm personally excited about the 5000 series of NVIDIA GPUs, which is strongly rumored and has arguably already leaked, will be announced in January of next year at CES and available quickly thereafter.
There have been a few leaks surrounding that. So NVIDIA, graphics card company, they're not just for powering your video games on your PC or gaming console, depending on what's in it. NVIDIA has the 4000 series of cards out right now, which have up to, is it 24 gigabytes of RAM, I think, for their 4090, something like that. And then people were wondering, are the 5000 series ones, because they release one every, I think it's like 18 months, give or take.
Yes, 24.
Thank you. So 24 gigabytes max, and then supposedly for this next one, we might actually go up to 32, depending on who you're asking, like in the local large language model kind of community or otherwise. People are wondering, is it not being bumped up because it can't be bumped up in terms of memory capacity, or is it not being bumped up because it's only so much higher to the $30,000 per chip server ones that they don't want to eat away from their very profitable enterprise sort of solutions. Maybe
because
it's a mixture of both.
My Apple GPUs have access to 128 gigs of RAM.
Right, which is gobs more, but it isn't as fast as the Nvidia stuff, and it's not as they don't have like I think they do have like CUDA support, but it's not exactly the same as a one-to-one of like the Nvidia cards are definitely better for doing AI. You don't see 10,000 Mac M4 computers just like lined up next to each other in a server rack somewhere, despite the fact that you can have more RAM in a smaller amount of space.
I don't and haven't for quite some time run a PC. It's all Apples and a few Raspberry Pis, and I don't know, maybe there's a random Linux box somewhere, but there's no traditional PC. And when this 5000 series comes out, I do plan on going back and building a PC again for the first time in a long time to experiment with a lot of this. Because I find a lot of the projects that are open source that I want to play with, there's a lot of changes that have to be made in order to try to get them to run on your in a Apple environment, on Apple Silicon.
Yeah, agreed. And
you run a PC too, right?
I do. Yeah, we're actually on my Windows computer right now. We aren't. I am.
And is it a Nvidia GPU?
It is. I have a 3090, so one almost 2 generations old, but fairly beefy. And then I have a ton of regular, slower RAM. So like I can use some fairly large language models locally on my computer, very slowly.
Maybe I don't know if you saw this, Nvidia is coming out with a $249 dev kit.
Yeah, it's already out.
Oh, it is out. I didn't realize it was released.
Already available.
It was announced.
So as a little bit of context kind of surrounding that, there is a little bitty LIL apostrophe bitty computer called the Raspberry Pi, which has been fairly popular in the like maker space.
I have several of them.
I have one right over there. And they're great for like, I want to throw together some kind of like cutesy little computer powered something. And people use them for like a home automation thing or sensors or whatever, like a tiny little media server.
And really inexpensive too.
Cheap. Very, very cheap. $250, a lot less cheap. But this Nvidia computer is like a Raspberry Pi, which is to say it's a little guy. It's just a little computer that you can use to do stuff with. And this has, I think it's like 8 gigabytes of video memory in it, which is not a lot by today's standards, but also it's not nothing. And you could take some LLMs into it, or even just not LLMs. Other machine learning powered stuff can fit on a little guy, which is, I think, really, really interesting. You don't have to have a $1,000+ computer to do machine learning work anymore, or you don't have to be paying by the hour for cloud resources. You can have a little guy right there on your desk that you can do this with. I think that's cool.
They've had this Jetson platform for a while. I used one, I'm just going to like ballparkish 8 years ago.
Wow.
It was similarly priced at that point. I'm assuming wildly less powerful. We were using it for video processing, hooked up to a webcam. So I was working at a company that did kind of like event layouts. As an example, we did the layout for Amazon's developer conference. So they would figure out, again, where everything goes. And it was all done in 3D space. But for this, it was for a hackathon. We hooked up some cameras to this Jetson unit so that we could map where people were in that 3D space to understand how people flow through the environments and then potentially later on optimize it. But that was built on one of these $250 dev kits. So this is a platform that has existed for a while. They have a version of it that's kind of credit card size that they've been promoting, can power a self-driving vehicle. Maybe not a full car, but farm equipment or again one of those sidewalk robots. It could be appropriate for that.
Yeah, if I want a thresher to have volition and ability to navigate on its own, I definitely want the smallest, cheapest one in there as opposed to more power.
I just hope they're not being used in the cruise robo-taxis. I don't know if you heard about their fate. We've mentioned them before. Yeah.
Well, we've definitely talked more about Waymo.
This is true.
And you and I thought Cruise and Waymo were the same thing. It
turns out true too.
Turns out
we weren't supposed to say that.
Well, we'll edit that out in post. Or
we are geniuses, and we're infallible.
Yes, self-aware even. No. Right, Cruise, which is definitely well-known and separate competitor to Waymo, which had a lot of General Motors funding, had that funding pulled. And so goodbye, Cruise.
In its entirety.
And the robo-taxis.
It's billions of dollars. And potentially, which is another thing we've discussed, they were using the LiDAR technology where you have a radar, laser radar on your roof that's spinning around. These things are very expensive, but absolutely superior to vision-based technology, which is what Tesla uses.
You get like literal data on how far something is and how it's moving.
But like, expensive and ugly.
Yeah.
And I guess
Boy, there's a
GM's
joke there somewhere.
Original hypothesis was, okay, they're funding this robo-taxi service, but that technology will make its way into their commercial cars.
Lo and behold, that's exactly what they're doing.
Well, I don't think...
Like GM said, we're ending this so that we can focus on
Yes, so that they can focus, but I don't believe they're taking the technology from...
sure. Yeah,
they're taking some of the people...
Right.
But and some of the ideas, but LiDAR isn't coming to GM. They're just realizing, hey, we're way far behind in this. We need to save some money. It doesn't seem like it's the way forward now. We need some incredible advances.
Forward.
Yeah, perhaps. We'll just wait till it all becomes self-aware.
He did it. He said
hey, another episode of They Might Be Self-Aware has come to its inevitable ending, but fear not, because another one is just around the corner, and you can find us on your favorite platform, whether you want to watch us live in video form on YouTube or just listen to those, I don't know, audible something. In the
something.
I don't have anything. I'll move on. The audible greatness on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or really any podcast director, your favorite player. Just search for They Might Be Self-Aware. You will find us. All you need to do is like and subscribe, and magically we appear. I still don't understand how it works. Just magically we show up.
Maybe AI can subscribe you for.
Oh, that would be so nice.
Wouldn't that be nice? Just say, hey, smart home assistant, subscribe me to and start listening to They Might. I don't suppose that's going to have happened unless you're already listening to this, but you can tell your friends, hey, try using AI to subscribe to They Might Be Self-Aware.
You heard it here first, folks, because you've been listening to
They Might Be Self-Aware.